Anyway, we're right outside the Temple Mount here. You know, like, is it not obvious that God kept us for millennia in exile, brought us back in 6 days? We had the 6-day war and returned to our biblical borders and got back the most important site, the most holy site of central to our people, and not only to our people, but to the globe. Okay, now the last one is judge favorably. And for various reasons, when you see someone doing something that you don't like, you gotta just figure there's a good reason. You gotta always figure there's a good reason. Judging favorably is how, I mean, it's so often the case that, you know, like let's say I go in the mikveh. You know, I'm a big mikveh guy. And for those who don't know, Hasidic Jews spend every day naked with all of their neighbors. Anyway, years ago, there was this guy in our mikveh, and you know, Israel's a desert, and we need our rain, and we need the Kinneret, and the Kinneret's the how do you call that? The sea of the Galilee. It's our drinking water, but there would always be this big Sephardi guy, and he would use the shower for like 40 minutes, and he'd be like brushing his teeth in the shower. It was a public shower, you know. He spent his 10 shekels to get in and then spent like 50 shekels on water in there. And he's just like brushing his teeth under there. And I would not enjoy my time there I've taken less showers over the years because of him. Because I'm making up for the water that's missing from our water source. But maybe he was like a youngest son who never got enough of anything. You know, like stuff didn't quite trickle down in a poor, big family. Big family, not a lot of money. Very little trickle down coming down to the youngest kid. And he's finally got a chance to take a shower. And he's just going to like milk it for all he's got. You know, he's just going to let every last drop of water come out of that Kinneret. And who knows what his story is? You know, who knows what's going on with that guy? And then I go in the water, and there's some Baal Tshuva in there doing like, I don't know what he's doing in there, like water aerobics or something. And so, you know, he's up and down, but now the whole water is going like really up and down. And every time I try to come up from air for my ritual bath, the wave goes over my head. So now I'm like drowning inside the mikveh. And, you know, I just want to like give him like a sidekick and just pin him to the wall for a second just to get some air in this mikveh. But perhaps it's the case that he's had a bad injury or something, and the doctor said that, listen, the only way you're going to rehabilitate is you need to have your body weight suspended while you get your strength back. Maybe that's what's going on in there. I mean, there's no way to know. There's no way to know. You know, another guy in the mikveh in the changing room, he has a little lock, and he locks his flip-flops to the bench. But, you know, once in a while you run into this guy's flip-flops, and I don't want to touch this guy's flip-flops. You know, the rest of us bring our flip-flops. Like, he's got to lock his flip-flops to the bench. But who knows, maybe this guy had like some terrible foot fungus, and the doctor's like, you got to wear flip-flops. And he's like, I got flip-flops. He's like, but sometimes I forget them. And the doctor's like, you can never forget them, man. You got to wear flip-flops every time. He's like, well, maybe if I lock them to the bench. So you never know what's going on with people. You just never know. And I'm sure every single one of us could tell story after story after story of where we thought something was the case when it wasn't, you know. And what was that famous story of maybe it went viral as a video. I forget what it was, but it was like someone was sitting in a cafe, either drinking their coffee or eating their ice cream. Sorry, someone else was eating their ice cream. And they just couldn't believe someone was eating their ice cream, and they were like getting so upset. They finally like just couldn't believe it as they're sitting there. And the person finally gets up, moves their paper, and sees that underneath their paper was his own ice cream. And really this person had been eating his own ice cream, and the other guy's ice cream was under this newspaper. So like we all have crazy stories like this. I leave my house on Shabbos, and I'm in my shtreimel, and I wear one of these big fur round hats, and and I'm like in the long robe, and I leave my house on Shabbos, and I'm excited, and it's Shabbos, and I'm saying good Shabbos to everybody. But I walk out of my house, and what do I see? I see a tattooed, body-pierced chain smoker who's some guy smoking cigarettes out on the street right outside my house. Now, had I lived that guy's life, if I had his brain, his family structure, his freaked out upbringing, his everything, meaning if I lived that guy's life, like the whole equation, the entire equation of his life, what would I be doing right now? I'd be that guy smoking a cigarette on Shabbos outside the house full of tattoos. And had he lived my whole life, he'd be this rabbi coming out of his house on Shabbos. So to judge somebody is as if you would have made a different choice. You couldn't have made a different choice because if you were them, that is the choice you made. So everybody is, all of us, who are you? Who's sitting in your chair right now, if not the sum total of all the mathematics, sibling order, community, who your father was, your brain makeup, your IQ, your everything, all of that is inside of you. And that whole long equation of everything you've ever been through has an equal sign. And on the other side of that equal sign is you on your chair right now. And I know you would wish that people would accept you. You wish people would judge you favorably. And so anyone you might have judged is that person. You're just seeing the other end of a long equation. And therefore, don't judge nobody. And I'll tell you, this is particularly hard. I hate to admit this. This is like, no, I always get too personal, but I'm getting too personal now. But I'm going there anyway. This is one of the painful things of living in Israel. Jews who live Torah in Israel, and especially the ones who aren't from here, their whole being in Israel is connected. First of all, you're in your ancestral land and aligning your life with the ancestral heritage of our tribe called the Jewish people. And it just seems so darn obvious that that's the right way to go. It just seems so obvious. The writing's on the wall. Even as I teach this class, like I'm literally, I don't know if you can turn the camera a little bit, if it would, Yosef, if you can focus it out the window, but like we're right outside the Temple Mount here. Will it focus on over there?
The light is too hot.
Oh, you don't know how to play with that light thing? Never mind. Never mind. So, anyway, we're right outside the Temple Mount here. Is it not obvious that God kept us for millennia in exile, brought us back in 6 days? We had the 6-day war and returned to our biblical borders and got back the most important site, the most holy site central to our people, and not only to our people, but to the globe. It's like so obvious. So judging favorably is when you see Jews in the land who don't do any of this stuff. Many Jews who are like, they're trying to like surgically reinstall their foreskins. They can't do enough Gentile lifestyle things. Like nothing's enough. Like they can't be more Gentile. They're trying so hard to be to run as fast as they can and as hard as they can in the opposite direction of Judaism. So you've got to somehow figure out how they have turned a blind eye to God's hand in our destiny that has culminated in this very day, this day, right now, 2019, or whatever the Hebrew date is of this year, 5779. Like, you have to be like, you have to not look around. You have to be asleep completely or willfully blind yourself. It's called willful blindness. And it's, how do we judge that favorably? How do we judge that favorably? And they sometimes look at me hatefully, and at least until I open my mouth and they realize they got the wrong guy. But sometimes they look at me kind of hatefully, like I'm somehow bringing up some guilt, or I represent something that's like taking us back in time instead of forward, something that's embarrassing for them in the high-tech world where Israelis are the cutting edge. I'm some kind of embarrassment. Like, they're trying to show an Israel that's like Silicon Valley, and I'm showing an Israel that's ancient, and it's a little embarrassing for them. I don't know what it is exactly going on, but you can shut that window a little bit. So how do we judge favorably? And the answer is, I guess I already said the answer. The answer is that because if I were them, I'd be doing the same thing. If I were watching those news stations, if I was watching the commentaries of the secular media, if I had, these black hat people trying to take their slice of the pie financially from my community, I guess that's one way, is if I were them, I'd be doing the same thing.